Hello, and welcome to the first episode of our new podcast, What We Pod in the Shadows. We are going to be discussing the sixth and final season of What We Do in the Shadows. It's going to be pretty spoiler heavy. So if you haven't seen the new episodes, maybe go watch those first. After we finish with this final season, we plan to go back and rewatch the first 5 seasons and discuss those maybe at a little bit of a later time. But hi, we're your hosts. I'm Raven.
I'm Alison.
So, 3 new episodes were released this week, but we are going to be talking just about the first two. And then next week we will do the third and fourth episodes together, I believe is what we talked about doing. Our first 2 episodes of the season are called The Return of Jerry and Headhunting. I don't think either of us really found the first episode that funny, but it does kind of help set up the season, so it is kind of necessary. For me, mainly the recurring joke that I enjoyed the most this episode was all the references to We Didn't Start the Fire. Thought that was pretty funny, but other than that.
So, a long lost character is introduced, and to get him up to speed, Colin keeps trying to push We Didn't Start the Fire on him to because he'd been asleep since 1976.
Yeah.
So he kind of knew all the stuff that he missed. But maybe we should go ahead and explain what happens so this all makes sense.
Yes. So we start off, the vampires are arguing about what they should do with the space under the stairs now that Guillermo has moved out, which leads them to remember their long lost fifth roommate, Jerry, who they all really liked, especially Colin Robinson, and Colin considered him like one of his few friends.
They kind of show like a montage of pictures because it's like, who the heck is this guy? But then was there.
Yeah. But he's been in a vampiric super sleep since 76, and they were supposed to wake him up New Year's Eve of 1996. So he was asleep for like 50 years almost instead of the 20 that he wanted. They decide that they want to wake him up now. Well, they forgot to wake him up, but they want to wake him up now because they think he'll remember who had use of the understairs area before Guillermo became Nandor's familiar.
So they kind of like tear through the house. They're like getting to this room where he's supposed to be stored, and they discover like a science experiment of Laszlo's where he was kind of making a Frankenstein like creature, except Laszlo does not know who Frankenstein is.
Yeah, he thinks that this is a completely original idea, and it's like, what is a Frankenstein?
So they find Jerry's coffin and wake him up. He's assuming that they've like conquered the new world because that's what their whole goal was, but they've only conquered like the streets around them, supposedly. I'm not
Yeah.
really even sure they did that.
Allegedly, yeah. And when he wakes up, he's like super excited and enthusiastic to talk to everyone except for Colin Robinson, and he doesn't even remember Colin's name. He calls him like a bunch of different stuff throughout the episode instead of Colin. And that really disappoints him because he remembers them being like good buddies. Jerry's just like really annoyed that they haven't conquered the new world, and he was hoping maybe even Canada and Mexico in there too. And he's just like shocked they've just been like dicking around without him, basically. And then he wants to know if vampires existing is still a secret. But then he sees the human camera crew who are recording the mockumentary that is the show. He's like, oh, great. What are they even doing with that?
So they are clueless about it and they go ask Guillermo. They said Guillermo would know why they're being recorded, what it's being used for. And when Jerry sees Guillermo, he thinks he is Laszlo's Frankenstein experiment. He thinks he's a body brought back to life for some reason.
It was so rude to poor Guillermo.
I felt bad for Colin too. Was so disappointed to not have that friend.
Yeah.
So Guillermo now lives in Laszlo's garden shed. They kind of seem to forget he was back there. Like Nandor had never visited him the whole time he was in there. It doesn't have a bathroom. Guillermo now works at Panera Bread.
It's like Laszlo's old shed, and Guillermo couldn't afford to live anywhere else. So Nandor is basically like his landlord, and he only pays him like $350 a month to stay there, even though it's kind of really shitty.
Jerry questions why Nandor the Relentless is now just pretty bland. He's just kind of a nice guy because he didn't kill Guillermo and he's Guillermo's landlord. Guillermo's allowed to stay around. Jerry's kind of like making them question everything about themselves. And that's what we were talking about before. It sort of sets up, at least for the next 2 episodes, what the characters are going to be up to.
Yeah. He reminds Laszlo of kind of like his old project of trying to do Frankenstein shit. He reminds Laszlo and Nadia of this old fight they had about Nadia wanting to like work amongst humans, and then Laszlo forbade it, which made them like not talk to each other for like 5 or 6 years. So then we kind of also get Nadia like starts working at Guillermo's work later on in the other episode. Of course, he tells Nandor he's gone soft. He makes Colin Robinson sad because he can't even remember his name and he just wants a friend.
So they've kind of begun fighting about stuff that, I guess, 50 years ago was bothering them, but they've moved on from. So Guillermo kind of points out that Jerry is messing up their dynamic and, like, I guess to get rid of him or maybe ask him to move out, but they kind of move to, like, let's kill him. Guillermo's like, that's not what I meant. Like, you don't have to kill somebody to, like, have them move out.
Yeah, and so basically, when Guillermo's trying to like friendship break up with him for them, he has to like fend them off, like trying to like stake him and get him with holy water and all sorts of stuff. And because of the negative energy in the house, it's made Colin like gain a bunch of weight. He's an energy vampire, so he's like just like absorbing the negative energy just by being there. And so then he's also trying to like get in with his little scooter, like run over his feet.
So I guess to circle back around, why Nadia wanted to work outside of the house. Nadia wanted to work outside of the house was because she's just super curious about humans.
Yeah.
But so they take Jerry to the guide, who is Christian Shaw, because he wants to take over the new world. And I think that's what her group is about.
Right.
And she's kind of taken with him because he sort of starts ordering her around. She thinks he's the chosen one. She reveals in the past she thought each of the other vampires was the chosen one at one point. I think the conquering the world thing is just not really their bag. It's not
Yeah.
their main goal.
Yeah. I think they just want to do weird and goofy things now. I think you just like you've been around that long, you just kind of get like really out of touch and just kind of become like eccentric and strange. So maybe what was once a priority when you were younger, just like just no longer interests you.
So I guess we didn't talk about like the under the stairs area. Nandor had wanted to make it like an exercise area. He said that it had been that at one point. I don't even really want to repeat what Laszlo said it was for.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure if Nadia was saying it was hers or Colin. What?
I'm not sure that like Nadia and Colin had like a major stake in that, no pun intended. It was mostly like Laszlo and Nandor were arguing about what they wanted to do with Understairs.
So I don't think the season's not going to be about them conquering the world. I don't think they might come back to Jerry at some point and like maybe see what his progress is with the guy. But this kind of opens up like different things for them, like the Frankenstein's monster thing, working outside of the house.
Colin making friends, literally.
Yeah. So it kind of gives them some new goals, I guess. So like the episode was kind of underwhelming, but it did set up it seems like the rest of the season. Jerry wasn't super compelling as a character, I guess.
Right.
but he does propel them to these new goals.
Yeah. I kind of see why they wanted to have like a multi-episode premiere because just that by itself is pretty underwhelming.
And then while he's with the guide, they kind of show at the end, he goes back to the "We Didn't Start the Fire" song, and he's asking her for all the information about the different parts in the song. All I can think of is the rock and roll cola wars, which I think it's just rock and roll cola wars, but they've put it all into one, like it's one thing.
Yes.
So she's like pulling all these books and videotapes off the shelf to show him.
Yeah. All the gags with "We Didn't Start the Fire" were very good to me, but like the rest of the episode was not as like fun. It was kind of but it did serve its purpose. So then, second episode, Headhunting, I feel like was a bit more fun to watch, and we did watch all 3 episodes, but 3 episodes is kind of a lot to fit in one podcast discussion. So we're just doing first 2.
We kind of typically discuss 2 at a time anyway.
Yeah, on our other
And
podcast.
initially, we thought there was only going to be 8 episodes, so we didn't really want to try to cram 3 into one.
Yeah. So we start off with Laszlo getting back to some Frankenstein bullshit by bringing people back from the dead, and he wants to do this to create a new familiar. You kind of have like a montage of him trying to do this in like years past. And we learn also that apparently Laszlo fought in the American Civil War. I'm not sure it said which side he was on though. So I'm like, what did you do there, Laszlo? I mean, it sounded like maybe he just kind of dicked around as he is wont to do. But
He just said he enjoyed it, but I guess he had been originally drafted, and that's
yes,
why he wanted to make a monster to take his place. But then he ended up enjoying the Civil War.
many feasts to be had.
So as he's starting to put together his monster with various parts, the his laboratory is kind of stinky. I think Colin liked the smell, but they keep kind of talking about it like it doesn't smell great in there. And his original monster was Cravenworth's monster, I think.
Yeah, and again he does not know who Frankenstein is. So when Colin brings that up, he's just like, no, this is something completely original. Also, I don't know who Frankenstein. And then Colin kind of accidentally ends up agreeing to help find a new head for the body because all of Laszlo's are messed up.
I have next some stuff with Guillermo, though, before we
Yes.
get to the head. So, because of a mix up with the order for Panera Bread, Guillermo starts working in a mailroom at this finance place called, like, Canon something.
I did not write down
Can-
what it was called.
It's called Canon Capital. I have written, poor Colin gets electrocuted. They must have like skipped around here. But so for some reason, Naja, there was another familiar that had left her coven and had went and worked out in the world and then got too stressed out and came and back and killed everybody. So she thinks Guillermo is going to do that if he gets a big boy job. I have next that they go looking for Laszlo and Colin go looking for a head.
Yeah. Colin's a rideshare driver, he said, like for every company, and so they go and use that as a cover to like finding a head, and they basically keep kicking out these guys when they find out something they don't like about them.
They're like really picky. They want someone handsome. Laszlo shows a picture, I think, of Rock Hudson originally, but he's been dead, I think, since the 80s.
Yeah.
So he's pretty disappointed. So, they're asking him all these different questions. And then, like, the one guy has like adult braces and they don't like that. And then they finally kind of settle on someone. The camera crew continues to follow Guillermo at his new job, but he doesn't want to be filmed.
Yeah, he's worried that they'll get him fired. But the camera crew or whoever like makes an excuse that they want to document the equity firm's unusual hours because they're up at a weird time because they're like working with or against China's financial market.
So they work Asian hours. So I guess that's why Nadia can be there.
Yeah, Nadia gets a job there too. To keep an eye on Guillermo. And then Laszlo and Colin, after they pick a guy, and they bring him to life. He wants to die again because of the pain, and he smashes everything around him and strangles Laszlo. And so, because Laszlo thinks there's no way to bring the creature to life properly, he dismantles him, which just upsets Colin because he was hoping they could build this guy so that Colin could have a new friend.
So at Cannon Capital, Nandor becomes a janitor. He also has the idea to keep an eye on Guillermo. He's not super good at cleaning. He's like vacuuming the ceiling, and later on he takes like a mop to like the tables. But he seems pretty excited to be Guillermo's coworker.
Yeah.
And I'm not totally sure what Nadia's job is.
I'm not sure they really say exactly.
It's just sort of like she just shows up and she just starts doing stuff, and they just kind of take it that she works there.
Yeah.
So Colin tries to put the monster back together. Nadia continues interfering at Cannon.
It kind of helps get Guillermo promoted because of the people she's like taking out.
Yeah, she takes out this lady, and so they move Guillermo to that spot. So now he's an assistant. So Colin kind of reveals that he's lonely, and he continues reanimating the monster. So he's a little more persistent than Laszlo, keeps trying different things because he feels like, maybe something will work so that it can be trusted to
Not attempts to murder them.
yeah, or like calm it down and then maybe he can teach it things. So this like I'm just gonna call him like a big wig comes into Canon Capital, and Nadia kind of distracts the assistant that's supposed to be kind of attending to this guy, and she tells Guillermo he's got like 5 minutes to learn everything he can about him, and he learns he likes to go to the club. And so Guillermo hits it off so well with him that he moves up again, and he's now an analyst. Although I'm not sure how, like, kind of schmoozing people is like a job. He does say at
Yeah.
one point that being in finance is easier than Panera Bread.
It might be less stressful.
I would think it would be more stressful, but I guess it would be less labor intensive, maybe.
Yeah. Guillermo basically used Instagram to find out everything about the guy that he could about like his habits and hobbies, and that's why he was able to like smoosh with him so well.
It was like he liked the club. He liked Instagram models, and I forget there was. I feel like there's at least one more thing.
I guess that he was like amicably divorced or whatever. He
Oh,
still
okay.
like posted about like their kid and stuff.
He's a good guy. So Nadia kills the guy's name was like Ryan. She had distracted him so Guillermo could get in there. But then when they go looking for Ryan, because his bosses are kind of pissed he never showed up, it's like he's passed out at a table and the boss thinks he's been taking Adderall or something.
Yeah.
And but Nadia had killed him, and later on, because Nandor is the janitor, the guy's like in a garbage bag and he just throws him away.
Which was funny, but at the same time, I felt bad for the guy. He just gets tossed in the garbage.
Yeah, like the other girl, it's just like, oh, she just never showed up for work. So it's like these poor people's families.
Yeah.
Okay, so Colin kind of finally has some success with his monster. I don't know if he's given it a name, but he's got it like dressed in shorts and suspenders and stuff. And the monster's able to say friend, and then he kind of discovers like I feel like it's some Latin music that the guy likes.
Yeah, it was like Latin jazz. I think the guy had like said when they had him in the car that he
Oh,
was like really into it and he wanted to stop talking about it. And and Laszlo's like, well, I don't care for his obsession with Latin jazz, but he seems like a good fit. And then they were gonna like lobotomize him or something to get rid of that, but he still liked it.
oh yeah. It's like we can get rid of that. Yeah, Colin just tried to. He said meet the monster where it was at instead of maybe having too high of expectations. So he was just kind of like showing him different things and telling him the names of them. So he thinks he's pretty successful. He gets him to hold this mouse and not harm it. I'm thinking it was more like a rat because of the size of it, like a baby rat or something.
Yeah, it seemed more like a rat to me too.
But then the monster just wanted to eat it. And
Yeah.
Colin just kind of let it happen because the monster had done so well, I guess, with all the other tasks. He's like, okay, you can have
Yeah.
a mouse every once in a while.
Yeah. And Laszlo was like very impressed with Colin's scientific work, and he even agrees to help work with him to make the monster even better. And that's pretty much the end of the episode. I think like the towards the credits, then like Colin and the monster kind of like dance a little bit. Oh, I forgot to mention one of my favorite
Oh,
joke in the episode was that Laszlo said that he thought that this was going to be a monster mash, like creating the creature, but like if Colin wasn't careful, then it would become like a graveyard smash. And as someone who listens to Halloween music year round, I got a chuckle out of that like both times we watched the episode.
yeah. So I think this one had a lot more going for it that made it more fun than the first episode. And the characters were more getting along, just had more to do. It was just kind of the first episode, they just were kind of bickering and
It's going to be kind of fun. Maybe we'll see like some new dynamics because I don't really feel like we got to see Laszlo and Colin hang out that much. Maybe like a tiny bit, but now they're like working on a project together. And even though previously Guillermo had like been sent to Europe with Nadia, we didn't really get to see what that was like with them two over there. So now they're like co-workers, and Nandor's his co-worker. Should be interesting to see more of, I think.
yeah, I think Colin, they would just kind of Colin mostly was just like in his room or he sort of had a job. I'm not sure what happened to his. Didn't he work at a place almost like the office or something?
Yeah. He was there, and basically he just absorbed the boredom and negative energy around him.
So I mean, him kind of yeah, having a friendship with the other people in the house. I'm not sure how far we're taking the finance job thing. How far much further that can be
Yeah, is Guillermo
taken.
going to be the CEO at the end of this of the series?
Maybe they'll start making a bunch of money and spending it on stupid stuff.
Probably. They don't try to like hoard all the money and then accidentally burn it when they were trying to burn, like when they burnt down the nightclub, but then only the money got burnt.
Or maybe Colin will make a lady monster friend. Or either for himself or for his monster.
Perhaps.
And I don't know about. I feel like Nandor kind of like didn't really do much. Like it was funny him as a janitor, but I just think maybe they didn't know what to do with him in this episode, so they
Yeah.
just kind of
Like, what if he cleaned really badly and he used a whole paper towel roll to absorb a spill because he basically just like whacked it for the area instead of like getting a couple towels, maybe max. It was funny him trying to mop the cereal boxes.
yeah, it was like the table the microwave was on had cereal boxes and he just kind of like mopped them onto the floor. And he was saying nobody wants cold coffee, so he was dumping it out
Well, it was still warm.
before it got cold.
Yeah. Did another thing, but maybe I was thinking of the paper towels and trying to just absorb a spill.
I mean, he was just doing a bad job.
Just a thoroughly terrible job. I don't know how much longer he's going to be employed.
I mean, those guys didn't seem to notice much, so
Yeah,
the
finance
the
bros.
finance guys, yeah. So we're pretty excited to watch the rest of the season and see what these guys will be up to because there's always like it's you can never predict. So
They're very chaotic. They get up to way wilder shit than your average sitcom character, even your Homer Simpsons. Though I don't know that we'd have an episode where they go to space.
I mean, I could see maybe one of them being interested in that, but
They'd be too close to the sun and
oh,
go.
maybe season 7. Well, they'd be real far from the sun, but I guess they would be constantly exposed to the sun.
Yes.
They could go to the dark side of all the planets and moons, though.
Just go colonize Mars. of vampires in space.
That'll be if they did it. I know this is the last season, but maybe in another season.
Thank you all so much for checking out the pod. I really appreciate views and feedback and like what you all think of the final season. So, leave us a review if you're watching this later on YouTube. Like, subscribe, comment, and I guess we'll see you next time when we talk about episodes 3 and 4. Goodbye.
Bye.